Welcome back to Simplifying the State, the podcast where we break down politics so you don't have to try to figure out why the released pages of the Epstein files are so redacted you could mistake them for the album Donda. As always, I'm Adam Watson.
I'm Nicholas Perrin.
I'm Joe Garfinkel.
All right, now before we start, if you would be so kind as to rate us and follow the podcast wherever you are listening and to share it with anyone you think would enjoy it, such as friends or family. All right, so today we're going to be talking about gun control, gun violence. It's obviously a very prevalent issue in the United States, especially today, given not only the amount of mass shootings we often see, but also the recent shooting at Brown. It just seems like a pretty relevant thing, an important thing that should be talked about. So, the first thing I guess is we have seen a lot of mass shootings, especially in schools this year, on college campuses and in K through 12. Do you guys see this as an issue that's going to get better on its own, or do you think there is going to need to be some serious action by Congress in order to stop this?
I don't think people are going to decide they're going to do less shootings, especially we've seen an upward trend in like gun violence. How many was it this year? It was like several.
School shootings, there were 231, and actually compared to last year, it's down a little bit. Last year was 336.
Last year was bad. I remember that, but still, wait, 336. That's almost one every day, right?
336 last year, and then in 2023 there were 352.
Yeah, there's only 180 days of school usually, so that's like 2 every school day.
Right. I think this is counting like basically any time there was like a weapon on campus. I don't think it's about like the major.
Okay, not only like deaths, not only like shootings.
But this year there were 148 fatalities and people who were wounded on school property this year.
148 instances or like individuals?
People.
Okay.
People. And then last year it was 276. So in terms of shootings and in terms of casualties, there's been a decrease this year from like the record high we saw in 21, 22, and 23, and 24.
So it looks like we're going down. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, there would need to be like more data, but this year is lower than the last 4 years.
Yeah, that's definitely a good sign. No one wants this, So I think that's great if it is going down. Though I'm optimistically hopeful about that. What do you guys think? What do you think, Nicholas?
I mean, how do you have data for like how many school shootings there were in like 2019 versus 2020?
Yeah, 2019 number of incidents, there were 124 in 2019.
In 2020?
That was like COVID, so that's going to be skewed.
There were 116.
Yeah, that's still a lot. So what I'm trying to get at is that I think a lot of the school shootings that we've seen over the past 5 years have been due to like mental health issues from the COVID-19 pandemic, with like a lot of kids spending a lot more time on social media. And as a result of that, becoming, significantly more depressed and being exposed to a lot more horrible things and suffering a lot of consequences from that. But now that the pandemic is over, I mean, there's still going to be a lot of like residue from that, even just in terms of habits. Like, I think even like as parents, I don't know if there will be like an effect of limiting screen access to like their children. Like, I don't know about your guys' plans if you plan to have kids, but if I plan to, I'm going to limit their screen access as much as possible because of, the effects that we saw in the pandemic. I'm not sure if that, but yeah, so I think we're going to see these effects for a long time. I think it is going to decrease gradually, but I do still think there's going to need to be some like congressional and state level, solutions to solve that, at least in the short term.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel similar. I mean, sort of building off both of your points. I am optimistic that we will hopefully see a trend downward in terms of school shootings. Again, without the presence of more data, it's hard to tell if this year was an outlier or if it's indicative of a downward trend. But yeah, also, Nicholas, to your point, I think it's a dual issue. I think it's both a gun issue and a mental health issue. During the pandemic, there were a lot of kids who were socially isolated and, who went on social media. And that combination did have some pretty negative consequences for the mental health of a lot of people. And, we're sort of starting to see how that, play out. But I think that is coupled with the fact that we have such laxed gun control and gun registration laws in this country. and it's fairly easy to get a gun, especially here in Missouri. I think Missouri has some of the most lenient gun control policies and laws in the country.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do.
realistically, I could get a gun myself if I wanted to.
I think there's like an age limit, but I think that's the only, thing that's stopping people from getting guns. You don't need a license. I think you just need, the cash to pay for it, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
I mean,
according to Everytown Research, Missouri is number 41 for gun law strength out of 50 states. I should admit, though, Everytown Research appears to be very left-leaning bias and doesn't always get their facts right.
Yeah. What's the most lenient? Is it like Mississippi or something? I think that's
No, Mississippi is the 49th. Idaho is actually the most lenient, but Mississippi also has the worst gun violence rate. So, I mean, hey, they got last place in one thing, which is typical for them.
I mean, I think there needs to definitely be some kind of broad congressional action on the topic of guns, and I'm not alone in thinking that. I mean, there's a poll from Gallup that shows that 56% of Americans, support increasing the strength of gun laws. And, I think part of that is because of, common sense. They're called common sense gun laws, things like red flag laws, waiting periods, mental health screenings, stuff like that. But yeah, I think the majority of people are, just frankly tired of the amount of mass shootings that we are having in this country, especially, in schools. I mean, gun violence is one of, if not the leading cause of death amongst children. And, I think parents are sick and tired of that, and Americans are sick and tired of that. And I think that's why we're starting to see public opinion gradually shift in favor of more strict gun control.
Yeah, I know in 2023 at least, guns were the leading cause of death through kids. I think it was 1 to 17. I don't know about now, but it's definitely still up there. And also, gun control and gun regulations, it's become such a polarizing issue, with Democrats obviously favoring more regulations and Republicans wanting to keep the regulations as they are or maybe diminish them. So, and I like how we made the distinction that we're for gun regulations, not just taking them away, right? Because in my opinion, at least, guns are part of the Constitution, and people do deserve the right to have guns, even though we've seen the consequences of them. It's like, I'd say it's part of America in that we can't just take the guns away.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you see, politicians advocating for more gun control, very, very few are for, I don't think any are for taking guns away. It's just for, I think some of the most extreme cases are assault rifle bans and assault weapons bans, and then just increasing the regulation of guns. And I mean, the idea of an assault weapons ban is not some, crazy idea that's never been done before. We actually had one here in the United States from 1994 to 2004. It's estimated by the NIH that the federal assault weapons ban prevented 11 public mass shootings during the decade it was in place, and they estimate that a continuation of that same ban would have prevented 30 public mass shootings that killed 339 people and injured an additional 1,131. So it's not like an assault weapons ban is both, untested and it's been proven it doesn't work. We have done it before, and it did help, with gun violence. And so, I think that might be something that, we need, given the amount of shootings that are caused by assault weapons. Because like Drew said, I think that, gun rights are so baked into not only this country's, laws, with the Constitution, but also just kind of into the mentality of Americans and such. I mean, I don't think we can ever fully take them away, but I don't see the reason an average person needs an AR-15. I don't know what the purpose of that would be.
And I think adding on to that, there have been increased bans on, well, I don't actually know, that's not true. Recently, there has been more specific, I guess, punishment for a specific type of gun modulation, I guess you could say. I think they're called gun sears, or there's another common name for them. But basically what they do is regular or semi-automatic firearm, and then make them fully automatic, which is
putting a switch on it.
Yeah, Glock switch, that's what it's called.
Things that can turn in a semi-automatic into a fully automatic. There's been some regulation on that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
those are very illegal.
Illegal or legal?
illegal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like in some states they're classified as machine guns, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And I mean, we've also sort of seen the government clamp down on ghost guns, like weapons that can be made with like a 3D printer that, can't be registered, can't be tracked, stuff like that. The main concern is the fact that you can make parts at home and like with a 3D printer and don't have to like register it or anything. Although here's the thing that I am sort of wondering about, and this is sort of going outside of the United States for a quick second, but I mean, Switzerland is a country that has, a very similar amount of guns. It's got a similar grasp on the society in Switzerland, yet you do not see nearly as many shootings in Switzerland as you do in the United States. And I think, and I was watching something, and I think that comes down to the way guns are talked about in like the constitutions of the United States and Switzerland. Because in Switzerland, it's more so of like having a militia and defending the country. So it's like an obligation to defend and to have the gun. But in the United States, it's more so of the right to just have it without a purpose. Because originally, the whole purpose behind the Second Amendment was for like a militia. But, once we established an army, like a big standing army, there wasn't really a need for militias. And so it just became the right to have a gun. I'm wondering what you guys think about
Yeah.
that.
So my interpretation on it, what I think, it's so the American people could have power over the government, and so they could rise up if they needed to. That's why
Right.
it's like baked into the Constitution, because they wanted the people of America to be able to defend themselves from another king. Because
Right.
that's like the historical context of the time. So I think now more than ever, maybe even the American people need to protect themselves, because, scary things are happening in the world. Like, especially with the Epstein files, like that happened just the other day, like big splashes in politics. I'm not saying we should rise up tomorrow and tear down the White House, but I think it's good people should protect themselves.
Yeah, and another aspect of like the protection that you're talking about is, I mean, like how much protection is a safe amount of it, And if we can, I guess another question like with Adam is like, how can we be more like Switzerland in a way? It's not as much like the obligation to defend the country, but obligation to defend, I don't know, I guess your countrymen in that case.
Mhm.
Like what should be allowed and what would be, safe and best. And I guess, I don't know, I don't think that's the question that most people are considering though, which is kind of odd.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the Second Amendment is a piece of text from a very, very different time, but socially, politically, and technologically. Because back then, the average person had a flintlock musket and a flintlock rifle that could fire one like musket ball a minute or something like that. And now we have fully automatic machine guns that can shoot like 500 rounds a minute or something like that. And, I'm not sure, I don't think the founding fathers could have anticipated just the technological shift of guns. But sort of to both of your points, yeah, I mean, there is an idea, the main idea behind the Second Amendment, well, there were two reasons. The first one was just so that they would have a militia to defend the United States. And then the second one was so that people would have some kind of mechanism to be able to rise up against another oppressive government. And sort of to your point, Nicholas, I think we need to sort of change the way we think about guns in the United States. And I think that's the main thing that separates the United States from Switzerland. Because like I said, they have an idea of like duty to each other and duty to their country and so on and so forth, that they need guns to, defend themselves and defend the country. Whereas here, it's just like, I have the right to own a gun just to own one. So I think one way we could do this socially was, to change the way we think about that.
Okay. And I guess like two last things that I want to talk about before we wrap up. So early in like January of this year, the Federal Court of Appeals struck down a long-standing legislation over 50 years old from 1968 about prohibition on 18 to 20-year-olds purchasing handguns specifically. And that was struck down on the grounds of the Second Amendment, which, feeds into what we just talked about. And, I guess you can make the argument that, 18-year-olds can fight in the military, so they should probably get be able to get their hands on another gun. Again, those people, their brains are not fully developed. They might not know how to use it properly, so on and so forth. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
I see it as, I think if done right, it'd be okay. Like in small doses, I think it's part of being American to be able to have a gun. Obviously, I'm not saying we should go give every 18 to 20-year-old a gun, but I'm okay with them being able to get guns if they can pass the requirements, if they go through gun safety stuff and actually know how to use it, right? What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I think something similar to your point. Yeah, I think in order to have a gun, you should be able, to prove that both you know how to safely use it.
Yeah, that you can be trusted with it. I agree.
Yeah, the second talking point that I had was recently put onto the House calendar in October. I think it was October 3rd, was it? Maybe. Yeah, October 3rd. It was reported in the House and put onto the calendar, was an act that would allow non-residents of a state to carry concealed firearms in a state that allows concealed carry. There are some people, as I said before in this episode, Everytown, that say it will allow anyone to conceal carry, even in a state that doesn't allow it. That it's this lawyer spiel, but from what I read, that's not true. I'll just read the quote that matters to find it. Okay. Who is carrying a valid license or permit which is issued pursuant to the law of a state and which permits the person to carry a concealed firearm or is entitled to carry a concealed firearm in the state in which the person resides may possess or carry a concealed firearm other than a machine gun or destructive device that has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce in any state that has a statute under which residents of the state may apply for license or permit to carry a concealed firearm, or, which is the important part, does not prohibit the carrying of concealed firearms for residents of the state for lawful purposes. That last bit states that, at least from what I can tell, does not allow people to conceal carry from out of state in states that do not allow concealed carry. So what do you guys think of that legislation? We'll wrap up.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that this law would allow people who are have a concealed carry permit to carry in states that allow you to carry a concealed weapon. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah, and there's also some misinformation that I've seen, unless I'm wrong, that says you can do it in states that don't allow it.
Right. I have sort of two thoughts about this. First of all, I think that, if a state has a concealed carry law that allows it, I guess I don't have a huge issue with it. I have an issue with concealed carry on a whole, but I don't think that law would be disastrous on its own. But I think there's another thing, which is just basically the whole aspect of federalism in this whole spiel, because you have so many different gun laws across the different states, and there's no uniformity to it whatsoever. And I think that's a big issue. And you can go to, and this could be an issue, that you could go to a state which has very, very lax gun laws and then take it to a state which has more strict gun laws. So you could buy a weapon in Idaho and then take it to California. And I think that's an issue just with the sheer federalism of it, just the differing between different states' laws when it comes to gun regulation. I think that's a big issue.
Yeah.
Do you think, Drew?
I agree with Adam. I'm not all that informed on this. Concealed carry laws can be pretty complicated, can vary wildly state by state. So I'm not sure for this one. But yeah, I found myself agreeing with what you were saying, Adam.
That's all I have to say.
I did want to say something before we go, that we've been talking about gun violence and gun deaths, and it's so easy to step away and look at it as a whole, but gun deaths affect so many people. So many young, promising people die due to stuff out of their control. And I find that terrible. I find that it's important to at least mention that before we end, that this is real, this is personal, and it's just an awful thing.
Yeah. I think that that's just such an important thing to talk about, because there are parents in this country who, when they send their kids to school, are genuinely concerned that they will be shot because of just the extreme lack of gun regulation we have in this country. And it's ridiculous that kids should be worried about being killed in school because politicians do not want to increase the regulation on guns for whatever reason. Because, I mean, it's just ridiculous to me, honestly.
Or
Yeah,
just
just
believe
sad.
that they reserve the right to own a gun and that will apply no matter what, no matter the consequences. It's really scary.
It's not the 1700s. You don't need a gun in order to defend the country from, an invasion. You just want to own a gun just to own a gun most of the time.
There's a lot of nuance to this, and a lot of people who own a gun genuinely believe that, I'm even simplifying here, but, they believe that less gun control is more gun safety in the best of circumstances, or even, right now or in the future.
Right.
We just need to be open.
Yeah. I can disagree with them on policy and I can push back with facts and statistics all day long. But I think at the end of the day, we have to acknowledge that the majority of people who own guns are not, fine with the deaths of children to protect their Second Amendment rights. They are as upset about the deaths of children, as someone should be. But I think it's important to remember that these are just people who want to protect a right, I guess.
Yeah.
But, we can disagree on the extent to which that right, should be, unchanged and such.
Yeah, at the end of the day, although we disagree with them, they're still people and they're still Americans.
Yeah. All right. All right. That's going to do it for this episode. We will see you guys next time. Make sure to follow us on Instagram. Make sure to follow us here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And we'll talk to you guys next time.